like just a tickly throat. I just get a coughing fit. Now everybody do that. Everybody's cold. Thanks, Tim. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I want to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, including our near neighbors, the Shiano First Nation and the South First Nation. Welcome to the Finance meeting of April 3rd, 2023. Please be sure to have your cell phones turned off. Meeting, I would like to have a motion to approve the, actually the addition, we have additions, do we, for this? No? No additions or changes to the agenda? Okay, so a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Okay, moved by Mayor Little, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Call the question. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, public participation. We have no presentations this evening. I will have one a little bit later in my councillor's report. So public participation. Is there anyone from the community that wishes to speak? Please do so up at the mic. Mention your name and the street in which you live on.
Patty Whitehouse, 5311 Rocky Point Road, and I feel that I'm sort of pushing myself a bit beyond my comfort zone with this comment, without taking any sides on which decision council should have made. I am concerned that some key council budget items had been made on this 50% plus one decision, a split decision. And based on my experience and training and education, 50% plus one decisions are not very often good ones. The ideal would be that the group making the decision works together, looks at things in other ways, and finds a way to come, if not to complete consensus, at least close enough that one can feel trust that everybody is behind it, will support it wholeheartedly. I know that the five of you are intelligent people who have what each of you believes in your own way, the best interests of the community at heart, and I am fully behind that perception. I would feel so much happier if you would take another look at those 50% plus one decisions and see if you can't get closer to consensus. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? This is public participation. Ladies, okay. Okay, seeing no more interested parties, press the mic. If anybody wishes to speak to the community garden, now would be a good time. Okay.
Hi, my name is Joanne Parker Robertson. My husband and I have a 10-acre farm at Petter Bay and Matheson Lake, Hidley Farm. We produce heritage and heirloom varieties of livestock and produce. We don't personally have a need for a community garden, but we certainly feel that it would be a really exciting addition to our community as part of the downtown core. And we believe this because even though we have the land to garden and grow food, we believe that there are probably other community members that don't necessarily have their own gardening space. We like the idea of a community garden such as the one in Sun River in Souk, where it's a meeting place for community members, especially maybe community members who don't have the physical ability or resources to have their own gardens. So for seniors, for 4-Hers, as a center where, you know, we can really showcase what is Metchosin, and that is a beautiful agricultural community. And in doing that, host things like composting workshops, hugelkultur, pollinators, and really build off some of the other things that we built in the community, like the restoration of the old schoolhouse and the education that comes through that and the community pride that comes through that. I just feel like a community garden would expand on what we've started to build, and that is pride in our community, the sharing of information and resources amongst both seniors and young people, and the opportunity to host workshops and community building events. And I would really love to see that front and center. We see a lot of parking lots when we come into the center of town, but I just think how beautiful would that be for other people to come into our community, to be able to see what kinds of agriculture and positive small scale farming as opposed to industrial models of farming, food sustainability, which is so important to us as we've seen through things like the pandemic, and both as an educational tool and a community center for everyone. I certainly, as a farmer, would love to contribute and participate in something like that in my community, and invite other farmers to spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ann Taylor. I live on Chapel Heights off of Duke. And I only have about an acre, but I also have about 70 years worth of experience in gardening. I would be so thrilled to see something like a community garden in Metchosin. It exemplifies what we are, and it shows everybody around us what we do with our land, whereas we're not putting up a lot of buildings. I think something like a community garden is an excellent place for people to start to connect again with nature. Never mind the cost of the groceries. The fact is that once you start growing your own food, you have a totally different attitude about what you eat and where it comes from. And I think it's very important to teach that. Learning how to grow food is a whole lot like learning how to cook properly, preserve the food, sew your own clothes, fix your own cars. We're just losing touch with so much of that. And I really think that it would be an excellent opportunity for us to build on what we have the most of, which is nature and agriculture. I think if you build it, they will come, and it will probably start something really good. I cannot do a whole lot physically for you, but I can sure be around to try and help out with teaching, doing workshops, and organizing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi everybody, Derek Wolf, 925 Clapham Drive. I have offered, I know I've sent emails to 3 of you, that I will do that. I will make this community garden at that awful bramble place. And I will head it up. I've done a bunch of out yards for the Capital Regional Beekeeping Association up in Jordan River. 6 miles up the river, no, 6 kilometers, not miles, up the mountains up there. So I have a tremendous experience doing that. I love gardening, and I will do it. So I'll get all the stuff out of there. I got Tom Henry to commit to all the soil that we need. And I know Chris said he could help me with the fencing, and it's a pretty simple, it's like we could just start in that little bramble place. So I offer my services as some kind of champion organizer guy to do it. Lots of people want to do it. Lots of people volunteered. We'll do it through the Pomological Society. There's the chief financial officer there. And so happy to do it. And I think we should get the whole thing done by the end of April so we can start the seeds by May. It's a really simple ask. It's like 3 fences, some soil, some wood. I mean, this has got to be a bit of the easiest thing I've ever done. I don't want to garden there because I have a big garden myself, but I'm happy to run it. I've run the out yards for the Capital Regional Beekeeping Association, so I know how to do all that, and that's the easy part. But let's just get going. Let's just get the bramble out, dig it all up, put in the fence. I mean, it's like, I'm going to stop talking and let's get out and do it. There's still light tonight. I don't know what we're waiting for. We'll get Mark Atherton and the whole gang. He'll come and tear up the bramble. We'll wear chainmail so we don't get torn up. I guess you need to, yeah, so I'm in. Put my name down to head up the whole thing with the Pomological Society, and we can rename it to the, I don't know, the Secret Garden Society. Okay, so there you go. Thanks, guys. Just email me. You all know where I am.
Thank you, Steve. Anybody else?
Hi there, my name is Chris Robertson at 1020 Matheson Lake Road. I just want to say that I think all the ideas I've heard here are fantastic. I would also be happy to volunteer some of my time and labor to help get it going and help get it off the ground. But I think the idea of it being a community gathering place to share best knowledge and best practices for farming is a great idea, especially for those people who might not necessarily have all the resources in one place to do it by themselves. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments this evening they'd like to share with us? Okay, seeing none, move on to the next part of our agenda. The adoption of the minutes, number 4 on the agenda. A, page 3, adoption of the Finance Committee meeting of March 6, 2023. Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None. And page 5, special council meeting, budget meeting, March 21st, 2023. On page 5.
So moved for adoption.
Move for adoption by Councillor Shukin, second by Mayor Little. Any questions, concerns, comments? All in favor? Opposed? None? Carried. And page 11. Receipt of the minutes of the Agriculture Advisory Select Committee meeting of March the 2nd, 2023.
Move receipt.
Moved by Councillor F, seconded by Mayor Little.
Can I comment?
Comments?
Yeah, I just want to thank the Agriculture Advisory Select Committee for these great minutes. It's really important to see what they're talking about and taking our recommendations and giving us recommendations back. So big shout out to the Agriculture Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Second, any other comments? Called question, all in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you. Okay, so page 15, Councillors update. So we're still working on the municipal budget, the Finance Committee is. Capital planning budget was discussed a couple of weeks ago, and we will continue working through a few more deliberations with new dates being posted because we're running out a little bit of time. Wanapeka Water Distribution, I had my first meeting with that board. Just wanted to give our community a little bit of an update of the Rocky Point Water Upgrades project. The cost is shared between the CRD and DND. This project increases both the fire load and the domestic fire flow, and the domestic flows to the CRD as well as the DND owned water systems. The project includes replacement of the existing Rocky Point pump station, replacement of 560 meters of water main, construction of the new 1,700 cubic foot Deer Park reservoir and decommissioning of the existing reservoir, the upgrading of the existing Deer Park pump station, which is at the bottom of Deer Park and Liberty, construction of new Deer Park pressure reducing station, construction of 24 meters of water mains. This item is the 100% funded and owned by DND. The overall budget for this project is $9.7 million, with DND contributing approximately $6.1 million. Completion is expected to be June of 2023. There have been delays due in part to supply chain disruptions, logistics, and labor shortages, as we hear from lots of businesses throughout the region. The project is approximately 80% complete. When I was at this meeting, I did comment on the work being done on Deer Park, because I've been watching that for the last year. As I ride up there weekly, and I did commend them for the courteous workers that they do have. They had a lot of their construction material behind construction fencing. They've kept the road and cul-de-sac clear, and clear of debris, but also of vehicles. And anytime they brought big trucks and equipment down through the private residence there, which is how they accessed the pump station, they were always very careful of the dogs and the dog walkers, the horseback riders, as we were traversing into the area of the park that's adjacent to there. So it's been quite a project that they've been doing. But I wanted them to know that their workers are very mindful of the community members that traverse through these different areas of heavy construction. And my report from the West Shore Parks and Recreation, the Parks Department gave us a presentation of their department structure, the diverse inventory facilities that with the specialized equipment they have. They have a man lift for changing the light bulbs over the soccer fields and the rugby fields. In 2023, the tennis courts will be repainted, the lines in the tennis courts. The board is planting more native plantings throughout the property, including some of the protected species, and it was wonderful to hear them reference to our friend Morley Mill, as she was an influence on them, a great influence on them choosing a different way of gardening and landscaping. Major user group statistics. The annual report updating facility use was provided. The drop-in admission users are 359,000 plus hours, almost 360,000 hours of just drop-in visitors to the facility. And this continues to be the greatest use of the Society's facilities. Wanapeka Soccer continues to be the largest sport organization in terms of hours use, and that's nearly 12,000 hours a year. Wanapeka Minor Hockey, in terms of dollars spent, upwards of $940,000 from that club. Tennis Clubs of Canada proposal is working with the staff of West Shore Parks and Recreation, and the Tennis Clubs of Canada, TCC, is interested in partnering with the society, where they provide and operate an air-inflated structure over the tennis courts during the seasonal months of winter, turning this into a year-round facility for all users of tennis. This will also include pickleball. So we'll have more use indoors for some of these activities that we would normally see outside. The great thing about West Shore Parks and Recreation, my experience so far, is they're a very enthusiastic group of staff, but they're very keen to diversify their facilities and not just have a one-use situation. They had a period promise, is what they called it, about a week ago. And what this is, as you may have heard some of this in the media and at this table, that they signed on to the period promise to make menstrual products free at the Q Centre in partnership with the Victoria Grizzlies, West Shore Wolves hockey teams, the Shamrocks lacrosse team, and Colwood Mayor Doug Kobayashi. Colwood this is in their district, so they're very much involved with this as well. And the skate park grand opening as of this afternoon. The date has changed. We're still confirming the date. We're waiting for the landscaping to be put in and be a little bit more established. So stay tuned. It'll be early June. It'll be before the 15th of June or before the mid of June, because then everybody starts going on holidays after school starts to break. The Great Victoria Public Library Board staff have been visiting various municipalities regarding budgets. We will be seeing them in our next budget discussions, as we had already approved the budget, so they're finished with us for now. I'm hoping that we will have a tour of our local library for council. I'm just waiting for dates on that. And also in the libraries, they will also be putting in dispensers for menstrual products throughout the libraries in the Great Victoria area. March 14th, as many of you know, there was an open house for the Tumut Treaty at the community hall. It was very well attended by residents. I hope that people had a lot of questions and answers provided to their satisfaction. It was great to see a large number of our residents in attendance. Agricultural Advisory Committee recommendations, March 2nd, 2023 meeting. The Agricultural Advisory Select Committee met March 2nd, 2023 and made recommendations related to building permits and decision making in the ALR. This is a little bit out of order. I need some guidance, Mayor Little. There was a member of the Ag Committee that was going to speak a little bit more to this. They have more information than I do. Is it acceptable to have them come to the mic and speak to what this means?
You're talking about right now?
Yes.
Well, you're the chair. If you would like to open that up, that would be fine. Or is it for the motion? Or
It is. It is
Okay.
to give some background on this.
okay, you're the chair. You
Okay.
can, as long as they come to
Yeah.
the mic and as long as they speak right into the mic and identify themselves.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Hi, my name is Robin Tunnicliffe. I'm the chair of the Agricultural Select Committee, and I also sit on the Peninsula and Area Agriculture Committee, and I do that on behalf of Machosen. And it's just the greatest privilege to sit at that table, because we are part of protecting mostly the peninsula, because that's where the municipal councils have the buy-in, and they actually really care about what the farmers have to say. So we meet once a month, and we are presented with development proposals from Saanich, Central Saanich, and North Saanich. and everything having to do with the ALR. So once somebody has made a submission to have an alteration on ALR land, ALR is the Agricultural Land Reserve. So while people own ALR, it really is land that is reserved for agriculture. So things that can happen on that land are limited and need to be limited so that future production capacity is not hampered. So having a second set of eyes on development proposals is very useful. And at the PAC table, we have the planners from Saanich, Central Saanich, and North Saanich that attend. Municipal councillors attend, and there's the best dialogue. It's democracy in action. It's a wonderful history lesson in land use, what happens on land, what compromises can be made so that people can live out the lifestyle that they've dreamed of on their big properties, but future production isn't hampered. So we talk about house siting, where houses can be sited and can't be sited, and it can be different depending on the topography of the land. We talk about hydrology and how that might be impacted by dumping of soil fill, of all sorts of alterations in landscape, how that will affect land further downstream. We talk about development on land that is so extravagant that it hampers the ability of future farmers to ever access that land. So all of that kind of decision making, it's putting our heads together, it's planning for agriculture, and I dream of having that happen in Metchosin. So I would love for council to be working with the Agriculture Commission. So when applications come in for development on agricultural land, it's just worth having a second set of eyes on that paper. Nobody knows what, when we sit at the back table, what we're gonna come up with, because we'll have Bob Maxwell, who has 50 years of experience. He's a farmer and an agrologist, and he has all the history of what's happening. We have contemporary farmers that know all sorts of different ways that land can be used and may be used. There's container farmers, there's all of this stuff. So it's really an exciting example of what can be happening in planning, and I would love to see us work more together. So if that's of interest, the Agriculture Committee is ready. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Robin. That was helpful. Councillor Schuken.
Can we, are we okay to discuss Robin's
Sure.
thoughts?
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's a very interesting concept. Can I ask a question of Robin through you?
Yes.
So, Robin, you're talking about the Peninsula Agricultural Commission, and they consider development applications, or?
Yes.
Okay.
And, come on. And Metchosin's a member of the Peninsula and Area Agriculture Commission. So we pay into the pot to have, the secretary, the minutes, all of that kind of stuff, and the space. So Metchosin could be sending development proposals to PAC. So we could be doing that, and it would be a great thing, and it couldn't hurt to have a couple of sets of eyes, because I am learning. I've been on the PAC for 10 years now, and I just learn so much at every meeting about what happens when changes are made on farmland. So Metchosin could be sending those development proposals to the PAC, and then we could also see them here. It's up to you folks to make that call, but we're not using the PAC the way we could be. And they would love to hear from Metchosin.
Another question?
Yeah, sorry. Well, one thought. So right now, if there's a subdivision application that's 4 or more homes, it's automatically referred to MEASC and PTASC. And I don't know if I want to put this forward right now, but I wonder if there's a similar function that might happen with development on agricultural ALR land. And what I might suggest to Robin is the Ag Committee also work with the APRM to bring us a recommendation on how we might address this. And I do have to caution, I think our staff are really maxed out right now, but in the coming little while, we could have a look at it. I mean, I don't want to be, so restrictive on people who buy property and develop it, but at the same time, there's I think another level of care that you can apply, and I agree with you on the ALR land. So, yeah.
And, the municipalities don't always do what we say. There's back and forth. It can't hurt. And I think every application that comes in on ALR land, why don't just forward it to us? You don't have to do what we say.
Yeah.
Mary Lou?
Yeah, I don't have a question for Robin, but I can see the wisdom in this, and I didn't realize that we paid into the Saanich Peninsula and Areas Agricultural Commission, and I think there's some merit in this. One of the things that I've noticed, and it's sort of well known on the mainland, the areas along the Fraser Delta and north or south and north Delta, many of the agricultural lands have been bought up, as you've said, and what they've done is applied to have a huge mansion right in the middle of the agricultural space, and now there's a move to bring them to the edges and reduce the size so that the arable or the agricultural land is not lost forever. And so I could see wisdom in having additional set of eyes here as well. And like you say, we do refer to other advisory committees. And anyways, I would be in favor of this. I'm not sure if the committee would be ready to vote tonight, but I would be in favor of this.
I think the super rich are starting to settle in the CRD, and they want to be on agricultural land because it's flat and easy to build their mega mansions on, and we just need to say no. That's not what our farmland's about.
Absolutely.
Robin, through the chair, I'm wondering, the ALR has changed the rules somewhat on some of these things following on the activities in Richmond, where the father of the ALR has just stepped down from council, and Richmond Council, Harold Steves, who did a lot of work there.
Yeah.
What about ALR enforcement? Is the Agricultural Land Commission active in enforcement? Say, for example, when they don't do, as Mary Lou was pointing out, place the site of their building where it should be, or at least the plans. Is the ALC involved, and how is their enforcement wing in terms of dealing with those kinds of questions?
So I hear that there is more cash being infused into the ALC, but if you want to find out more, April 6th, I think that's Thursday night, we're having our agricultural meeting here at 7 p.m. and Kathleen Zimmerman, who's worked for the ALC for 30 years, is coming to enlighten us about all the rules and regulations, even the history behind all these. Why are these rules there? What does that mean? And how do we work within them? So I'm really excited about hearing from her because I don't even know all the rules. I need to learn more too. So, yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Robin. Councillor, did you have any questions or comments?
No, I don't.
Thanks, Robin.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay, so that brings me to the next part of my councillor's update.
Councillor Donnison,
Yes.
so on the motion, did you want to bring it back to your next meeting with a report on advising or sending information to the Agricultural Committee, or?
Sure. Seeing that we have a meeting on Thursday, and Kathleen will be there. I'm actually hoping that Kathleen will come and do a presentation with us, but it'd be great for us to go there as well. Sure, that would be a good idea, I think,
Okay.
time-wise. Agree? Yes? Okay, so we'll do that. Thank you. Thanks, Robin. That was really informative. So some upcoming events. Well, the Ag Committee meeting is meeting on the 6th, which is Thursday here in the Chambers. It is open to the public, as all our meetings are. And there is public participation, as all our meetings have. Another thing that's coming up in the West Shore is the Sarah Beckett Memorial Run, and I had mentioned this late last fall about our council being involved with that. I have sent a couple of emails and nobody's getting back to me. I think I'll have to try and get somebody by phone, but they do have a date now. It will be May 13th. Start and finish is at the Starlight Stadium. Registration is now open for in-person or virtual run and walk. Don't know how you do that, but it's all about sponsors and raising funds. So whatever works, this is what they're trying to do. And so team of chosen, whoever's still interested in being part of that, I'm hoping we'll find some sort of volunteering capacity for us. The funds that will be raised will support the Goldstream Food Bank and the Boys and Girls Club of South Vancouver Island is their new name. So I just wanted to let the public know that that will be coming up in about a month. So it is online. There'll be more information. It's about every week now. There's new information coming on board. They're also on Facebook. So on to the next part of the agenda and the last part of my councillor's update. I'm going to give you a PowerPoint presentation. This is probably about the 4th time that I've actually done it in the Chambers. And after tonight, I hope that I've gotten some traction from the enthusiastic residents that spoke to it. And there's a variety of reasons why it hasn't been taken up. I had only wished that the 4 of you were here in 2018 when I did the first presentation, because I'm sure you would have sold it much better than I did. So we're just moving the camera for our people at home to watch. So in 2018, I was on the Healthy Communities Advisory Committee, and we had hired a company to help us with scoping out some different gathering places in our community, and it was a grant that we applied for in partnership with the Council of the Day of $30,000. And so we hired a consultant to help guide us through public consultation, different stakeholder meetings, and different community engagement surveys, all sorts of different things. The document is on our website. It is a great piece of information to look at. There are concept drawings there. They're not specific to Machosen. When the chair and I had did the first initial PowerPoint presentation on that study, one of the things I did say is it's a document not to be shelved. There are lots of components of it that we could bring out as we could phase in and adapt to suit the needs and desires of this community as it evolves and grows, because we're not always going to stay the same. So this was one of the projects that I kind of grabbed onto, because I'm so excited about doing stuff like this. Later in 2018, there was a woman that I met with the Colwood Community Garden. It was front page on the Goldstream Gazette. I called her up. We met for about 2 hours, talked about how they got started. Now, one of the things that people have said to me, why would you want to have a community garden in a rural area? I mean, you got all this farmland. The truth be told, as we've heard some of our people speak this evening, is some people don't have access to property. They're renters, or for whatever reason, that maybe the terrain, maybe it's all bedrock or whatever. So there's that part of our population. There are people who would like to get out and learn, and I see this more as a learning community and sharing, and there's so many other aspects which I'll go through. So I met with this lady for about 2 hours. We talked about the pros and cons of the things that they dealt with, and she was kind enough to give me a set of their bylaws. So we have that to customize to suit what we have here. So let's get the the show going. So as you heard from our community already, that the gardens they provide so many different things. It's a growing place for relationships, learning about how to grow when things fail, learning from that situation, always learning from our mistakes. This is not just food, this will be medicinal things like herbs and different products that we can create from the earth. There can be an abundance of harvest, again, produce, fruit, worms. We could even do worms. There's a market for wrigglers. And of course, it just creates an environment of strong, healthy people and families. The location that we were looking at the time, this may change, I don't know. So a couple years back there, the green is the first place we were looking at. This is where the swings used to be when the school was in operation. And right now, it is just overgrown with brambles. The pea gravel is still there, and the boards that had held it in are still there. They're starting to rot a little bit. There was an effort to clear out all the brambles, but of course they come back. And so I had this idea that as one of our fundraisers, because I have had this personal experience, that we could get a couple of pigs and fence it off with electric fence, because that's what really keeps them in. And they will root it out. And we've done this on our own land year after year, and we pretty much are ridden of all our broom and our brambles. And then we could raffle off the sides. But there's a little bit more logistics involved in that. But that was one of the fun things we kind of came up with. But the logistics being that somebody's got to kind of take care of these critters and keep them safe. Anyways, so it will take a lot of labor. This green area is not very big. It's about 65 by 50. So it's a very small area to start with, but it's a place that has been completely ignored for many years. The other area we were looking at, you'll see in the front that turquoise sort of strip, that's along the inside of the chain link fence where the parking area is. As a phase 2, not as a separate, but to keep it kind of growing. And then at the bottom there, you'll see the sort of purpley color. That's where the oak trees are right now. When you drive by, there's 3 picnic tables there. And at one point, we had considered that. So those were the phases we were thinking of. That as time has gone on and more conversations, more people got involved, that has some of that has changed. But the focal point is what I call the bramble patch. And you'll see there's a photo that I took there of what it looked like in 2018. And then under the oak trees, which we kind of came up with some names because the bramble patch is behind the tennis courts. We called it the court garden. Some people still really like that idea, but it'll be, we'll see what happens once this project gets off the ground. And the oak trees, we just called it Acorn Hollow. And at one point, the Lichgate was there. It has now found a new home. Lichgate from the school museum across the driveway. This was just an idea of what we thought of for Acorn Hollow, not specific to this, but just to keep it a natural area for gathering. And the benefits, of course, is that the gardens can be made accessible. They do not have to be box or container gardens. There is soil there, and that is part of the learning aspect, is how to amend the soil. We have a lot of expertise in this community on how to do that. We've learned through the pandemic that we are in dire need of reestablishing food security on this island. Right now it's like 2% food if we're shut off from the mainland. That's pretty scary. So initiating some sustainable horticulture. Not everybody has access to farmland, like I said earlier. It would be my dream to be able to see this foster up-and-coming farmers. There's lots of different ways you can farm on all different terrain in this community. And environmental awareness, of course, which would reduce in pollution. There's all sorts of climate action related aspects and benefits to having a community garden. There's a cultural exchange, traditional foods, there is socially meaningful to meet with people, again, all different ages. There would be shared leadership, of course. They would be self-governed. I'll get onto that a little bit later. I did put this line in here about crime prevention, and people say, well, how does that even affiliate with gardens? Well, it gets pretty quiet down in the core here. So when, gardeners, they garden sun up to sundown. So it's just more bodies on the site. And so with the school being quiet some days, it's always nice to have boots on the ground, eyes on the scene. So people taking some ownership for municipal property. Not owning it, but taking some pride in making sure things are in good shape. And again, as Joanne had said, it does add beauty to the area. So the accessibility, there'll be something for everyone. The boxes can, if there are boxes, you can have them a certain height. We have lots of different ages of people that do live here. There's lots of opportunity for education, like I say, soil amendment, different kinds of gardening. Lasagna gardening is not for growing lasagnas. It is actually a method of gardening, and I have practiced that one a lot. Instead of tilling, I've added a lot of nutrients just by layering different manures, leaves, cardboard, and the like. And the same with composting. There's different methods to composting and understanding the true composting, getting temperatures up, and all the biology that is involved with that. Cultural, we talked about that a little bit earlier already in the last slide with traditional crops. That would be things like the Three Sisters. I don't know if anyone has heard about the Three Sisters, but that's where you have corn, squash, and beans. And the corn stalks are pretty strong. They will hold the other ones, and they all kind of ripen at different times. They also put certain nutrients back into the soil. So these are different things that we could learn more about. First Nations plantings, healing plants, native plants, fruit. Derek had mentioned to me earlier this week about fruit trees. So there's different ways of doing fruit trees, spallier planting, that sort of stuff. So different styles of gardening. The idea was for it to become a sustainable user group, so that would mean creating a society, and the reason they would do that is then they would need to have a bank account, because this is not to be a taxpayer venture. This is to be self-sustaining like the other user groups. Again, I did reference about governance, so we have a start for that. So there'd be rules and regulations, the size of plots, the cost of them, who would it apply to, Machosen residents. Would we expand it to West Shore as possible? It's hard to say. I'm sure it will be filled up really quick with Machosen residents. The maintenance would be specific to the court garden, and of course there would be no pesticides, herbicides, or other man-made chemicals. We don't allow that on our property as it is. The area we're talking about is AASC, so this totally falls into the right theme with having a community allotment gardening. Certainly there would be a code of conduct, as that is something even council's working on, and our advisory groups, etc. The produce will not be offered for sale. This is something that needs to be made clear, because then it would be in competition with our farmers market. However, there are opportunities. They would need to be doing some fundraising. They could grow seedlings and sell seedlings, or collect seeds, or learn how to collect seeds and that sort of thing. Education and practicing avoiding noxious and invasive weeds, which would be prohibitive in that area. Again, it is the land that belongs to the district, so this group would need to be cognizant of being stewards to that land. No pets or livestock, so I guess there is the pigs. Children, of course, must be supervised. And then there's just upscaled materials that you could use. These are just pictures of pallets, but there are other things too. This does not need to be a costly adventure. There's all sorts of wonderful ideas on the internet. If it were something like garden beds, there's some different sizing that can be used. Sharing of tools, bringing your own tools, that sort of thing. There's all sorts of, there's a big garage sale coming up in May, so there could be some good finds there. If we're looking for that. Again, shared gardening, knowledge, learning, multi-generational is something for everybody. Irrigation options, rainwater collection. We have one of our fellow councillor colleagues in the Highlands actually knows a lot about this sort of thing. Mr. Gordbaird used to be a member, used to be a resident here. But there's collecting rainwater because we are seeing more and more drought. Having a water station. This is a logistic that still needs to be worked out. And it could be economically sustainable, of course. It's like I was saying, there's fundraising for community plants and seed sale, annual fees for the allotments, and providing workshops. So there, putting some fees and stuff with that. Other ideas, we have lots of different things going on at the school itself, inside the school, and some pop-up markets. Other areas that I know that my family has visited, we've gone to lots of things like art in the park. There's woodland gardens up in Kittycoleman, they have that sort of thing. So these are things that we could easily do here. Lots of neat stuff that we could work together on. So we would like to say, ready, set, grow. We're keen. I put an ad out on, well, not an ad, but just a little, hey, are you interested, on Facebook. Not something I do very often. I tend to stay away from Facebook. And I was absolutely swamped with interest in learning. And I think I got about, a dozen and a half people interested in being part of it. So I would like to, I wanted to bring this forward to council so that we can actually do something with this. But because this does not belong to a specific person, it belongs to the taxpayers, I would like to have a motion to the Finance Committee. And could I ask Councillor Shukin to co-host you into this?
Yeah. Sure, and thanks very much, Councillor Donaldson. I think I've seen you present this now 3 times, and that was the best one ever. And yeah, interesting comments right off the get-go in terms of support for the community garden. And one thing that I've heard from a person who is interested in the garden is just simply lack of sunshine. Hell of a land in the world, lots of soil, but no sunshine. So I would move that the Finance Committee recommend to Council approval in principle the stewardship of the land covered in the brambles behind the tennis court for a pilot project for a community garden.
Second it.
Okay, moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Mayor Little. Open for discussion. Mayor Little.
Yeah, I like this idea. As you know, I brought it forth on one of my councillor updates, and it wasn't palatable to the last council. I'm hoping that everybody else here on this council shows it, can appreciate the significance of this for the reasons that you've identified. I think it's a great idea. I'm just wondering, is that enough, the bramble patch? Is that enough to start with? No. So is that enough to start as a pilot project? And did you want to include in your motion that we would consider allocation of other adjoined lands in the future if the pilot project is positive, if it takes off? And
I've thought about it as well. Did we want to tackle the first motion first, or does it?
Unless you want to unless you want to pull it together, sure. We've got it first and second. We're having discussion first. So,
yeah.
Mayor, Councillor Gray.
Yeah, thanks very much, Councillor Donaldson, I think it's a great idea. I think approval in principle though gives you lots of latitude. I don't know that we need to start amending the motions or having more motions. The questions I would have would primarily be a financial one. Do we want to kick in some money to get this thing going in terms of the fencing or other things that are needed there? So an approval in principle, it doesn't involve money, I understand that. I'm just asking the question sort of as part of this, if we're going to jump in, what are we actually approving in principle here?
So what we're approving in principle, and I'm basing this on past experience with past council, that this is not to be funded by the taxpayers whatsoever. So no money is involved from council, from the taxpayers. This is self-sustaining, like the other user groups. And that was made very clear to us, and I would like to stay with that promise that we would go that route. So that was something that the group would have to decide on what to do. But I believe it can be done with just people helping out, getting fencing, etc., with no cost.
Thanks for the clarification. Excuse me. Sometimes the things need a little bit of a bump to get things going. So I'm not opposed to a small investment on part of the council, but and just thinking about that other notion of how big to go. Nothing succeeds like success. I want to get this going, see how it goes, and then we can sit back down again and talk some more.
So when I met with the group last week, we did explore, like you saw my first earlier slide there with some of the areas we thought about. So knowing that since 2018 when I first presented this, that there have been other plans for the property and activities in the core. So the climate of activities has changed and it's evolved, and there's a lot of great enthusiasm, especially as we're coming out of the pandemic. There's real great energy all over, and I feel in our community. So the group that I met with last week, one of the areas we were exploring is maybe stay along the fence line, so we're not interfering with the bigger part of the field, and if possible, phasing it and going down that fence line to the very back property line and then across the back. So encompassing both fenced areas. The exact size, I don't know. There's a big backstop in the way as well, so I don't know if we can beautify it or move it or whatever. So those are things to think about. So as far as growth, which I do believe there will be, because I do believe that there's going to be a lot of interest in this. So those were the things that the group did discuss. Councillor Epp.
Well, I agree too. It's a great idea. One of the reasons that it stalled kind of every time that it was brought up in the past was that there was no real bona fide group to take on the responsibility. And as Derek mentioned, that maybe the Pomological Society, would be involved. So maybe, I don't know, but if there, we do need to have, some group or a group form to step up. That's kind of a step. We can't really move ahead until there is actually a group to take it on.
And so it was kind of like a chicken and egg thing. Do we create a society, and there's a cost and formality involved with that when we don't know we have the real estate, or do we get the real estate and then we go through that? So I thought, well, I'll come again, and we decided as a group that let's just do this presentation. And it was a year ago when a resident had approached us about it, and he was the gentleman who lived in a very shaded area. He now has some other things happening in his life that he's not able to be involved at this time, maybe in the future. So this is, you're right. There were some definite logistics, but we certainly have more people interested now that are very keen. Councillor Gray.
Thanks, Councillor Donaldson. So just to be clear, our approval in principle is for the bramble patch. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, and then I had thought that we would do a second motion for it to be able to expand. We could put it all together as one motion, but I got the motion on the table now.
I'm approving the idea of nothing succeeds like success. Get a small thing going, see whether it works, and then there's working people come to us and say, let's make it larger.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so we'll go with this motion at the moment. So I'll call the question. All in favor? And obviously nobody's opposed, so it's unanimous. And did you want to make a second?
Yeah, I'm, I think in terms of just the space that's there and looking ahead to success, I think it's valid to, again, explore the possibility. So I would move that as the community group gets established and expands, that they explore securing the use of the land along the fence behind the bramble patch to the fence at the back of the field. And Tina, I can give you this as well. So I would make that motion. Again, to explore the possibility of expanding as the community group forms and gets on its feet, essentially is the motion.
Okay. Do I have a seconder?
Sure.
Second by Mayor Little. Any discussion?
Yeah. The baseball diamond isn't used often, but it is a used facility on the grounds, and I'm not clear exactly what you're talking about, but it seems like that may interrupt the baseball diamond, so I wouldn't be in favor of that at the moment.
Thank you. Councillor
Any
Shea?
thoughts on that in terms
I
of use?
cannot remember well, I've not seen it used in a lot of years. When my kids were involved in scouts, we would go out there and recreate. But I haven't seen it used in a long time. I know in the winter it's very wet back there, so it's not used. And as you know, you and I went back there to look at a horseshoe pitch that was underwater, an old horseshoe pitch, I guess from school days. So yeah, I'm not really sure what the use is of it. And once you take it out, then it does kind of get lost. And I don't know how it is to move it. The one thing I don't know is the distance it is from the fence. So if you do gardens around it, maybe even, I'm not sure. It would mean another visit. It's been a few weeks, or it's been over a month actually since I've been that far into it. Mayor Little.
Yeah, so as I understand, the motion is that if the pilot project within the bramble patch is successful and they want to expand, we're committing to them that we will look at options to expand to the back. Is that what your motion? So that as I understand it, it gives the community group some hope that they're not going to be confined to this 50 by 60 square foot place. Yeah, and I'd be in favor of that. If it's successful, it sounds like it's going to be a roaring success.
Any other comments? Councillor?
Well, I'm voting in favor. I think it's maybe a little bit premature. I mean, there's an awful lot of things that have to be sorted out for that, including getting water down there. There's not much rainwater in a drought. But anyway, sure. I mean, I think it's. I hope it does get going this time. It would be great to see it.
One of the ideas that did come up in our meeting last week with water is obtaining one of those big square totes and having it filled, and because I know somebody in the community who has the means to do that, I was kind of offering up the service unbeknownst to them. So, but that is an option as well. But you're right, there are some definite logistics we would have to work out. Okay.
Sorry, just one final comment. The approach of moving to a society, I think, is a really good one and addresses something like water, fencing, all the costs and all that, and gives some structure. So I think that's a great move to, start at that step.
Councillor Gray.
Would it be reasonable to understand that any expansion would not interfere with the baseball diamond?
I think that any expansion would have to come back to council for permission. That's what I would suggest.
Thank you.
Knowing that this is the property of the taxpayers, it's not the property of the user group. That's important.
So the motion is just inviting people to come back to council and talk about it?
I believe so. I mean, I now forget the exact wording, but it was to explore the potential expansion along the fence line to the bramble, from the bramble patch. So, nothing.
Right.
Nothing definitive.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so I'll call the question. All in favor? And it's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, so we have no correspondence, bylaws, or other business. I would ask the committee to have a motion to adjourn the finance committee for this evening. Moved by Councillor F, seconded by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you.
That was easier than last time. She forgot to move the camera back. This is screen. Oh, was it? Hope they'll be able to hear anyways. As long as they can hear.
Too much pizza. We were panicking, and with good reason, but maybe we didn't need to. We'll thin things down. We had the best pizza on Friday. It was just caramelized onions, so cooked for like an hour. With blue cheese and pine nuts.
That sounds good.
It was good, and it would have been amazing with a little bit of bacon. But it's so rich though. Yeah. But yeah,
Our son-in-law has a pizza
outside.
Yeah, he keeps it outside. It's, you know, it's so profane.
Oh,
But it's just a little, it's so weird. Boy, it's like a hot dog.
cool.
It's so hot.
Okay, Tina, on our words.
So he gets all this.
Tina? Okay, welcome to the District of Metros Council meeting of April 3rd, 2023. Could I?
16.
Oh. Okay, continuing, so on the agenda, we have a pink item, late, this is correspondence, we'll add it to 10B of the council agenda. So with that, and the addition of this item, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So
Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. And public participation. You have 4 minutes. If you'd like to speak at the microphone, please state your name and your street. Everybody's welcome.
Nicole Shukin, Levon Road resident. Good evening, Council. I hope this is a Council meeting matter. I just had 2 points. I wanted to, first of all, thank Councillor for getting the red lights on the Rogers cell phone tower turned off. Like, they're off. Our night sky is so much more beautiful, so I don't know what you did. Thank you.
Well, I'm just glad it's not a fluke.
I'm just hoping they can't find the replacement bulbs or something like that, but it's just so much nicer. And then also, we did have some shouldering, again, all this road business, I don't know if it's shouldering or what it is, on LeBon Road, they did some work up there. And I just wondered if anybody knows, again, this may not be a council meeting matter, but whether the material that's used is actually kind of like vetted for invasives, or whether, because it just struck me, a bunch of LeBon Road residents have been picking broom for, decades, and it just struck me that if there are invasives in that material, it would really set the community back. So I don't know if that's a question anybody has an answer to, but I'd be curious. Thank you.
I don't have an answer to that. We'd have to ask staff and they can get back to us on that one. Thank you, Nicole. Okay.
And this is a very quick, happy comment. About, I don't know whether it was maybe 30 or 35 years ago, when Robin started Sandwich Organics and I was involved with the BC honey producers, the prevailing opinion was that small-scale agriculture had no future, it was dead. It's so exciting to see how small agriculture has proved that it's viable and contributes to community in so many ways that industrial agriculture does not, and that there is such support for it, not just here, but actually across Canada, for the work that small-scale farmers do that increases food security, develops community, takes care of the land. Our community gardens are just sort of a symbol of the growth and awareness and appreciation for small-scale agriculture.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak at the council meeting? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you very much, everybody. Moving to page 3, this is the adoption of the special council meeting of March 16. I entertain a motion to adopt those minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Schiffman.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Epp. Comments, questions? No? If not, I'll take a motion, or all in favor? Sorry. Opposed? Carried. And the council meeting of March 20th, this is on page 5 of your agenda. This is the council meeting. I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Schuppen, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So receipt of the minutes. This is the Special Finance Committee budget meeting. Councillor Donaldson.
Yes, I just want to make a couple of comments. The budget meeting has started a little bit later than it has in past practices, and we've had some council meetings. We're doing our best to deliberate the financials. We've been getting a lot of feedback from the public, and we're taking those concerns and ideas into consideration. I want to thank my council colleagues for enduring the process. It's been a learning curve in some respects, and we've had some praise, a lot of criticism, why are we doing it line by line, that sort of thing. We're not doing all of it line by line, we're doing some things by chunks, but it has been a learning process, and we're finding that some things are repetitive, so it's actually been a good way of thinking about how we can maybe clean up the documents a bit. Having a new staff member on board too, our CFO, who I'm hoping will help merge some of those processes as well, and categories. Special thanks to the staff for their patience and commitment in recording and guiding us through this process, and my apologies for not the last meeting like tonight or today, but the one previously where we spent 4.5 hours going through as people gradually left here, but we really did have to get the work done, and we still are a little bit behind, but I do appreciate that staff has, we kept them after their regular working hours. So I apologize, and I appreciate the work that you've done.
So you're going to move receipt?
So move receipt of the minutes of the special finance committee meeting of March 21st.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by anybody? Councillor Shukin, all in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you. Okay, the special community planning committee meeting of March 23rd. Councillor Shukin.
Thanks very much, Mayor Little. And this is the meeting to discuss the rezoning application for 4696 Beckingham Road. And I thought we had a really fruitful discussion, explored some options, and I came to a consensus at the table. So thank you to my council colleagues and staff as well for the report and insights. And with that, I would like to move receipt of the special community planning committee meeting of March 23rd.
Okay, moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Epp. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. That was unanimous. Okay, thank you. So moving on to the mayor's update on page 23 of the council agenda. I just wanted to start with a rise and report. So this means that something that we've discussed in an in-camera meeting, we're bringing it out to the public for full transparency. This is in regards to the Municipal Police Unit Agreement, or MPUA, dated April 1st, 2022, that I signed on April 3rd. Of this month, or of last month, and the province signed it on the 27th of March. So the Municipal Police Unit Agreement, or MPUA, outlines the contractual obligations. In general, it outlines the rights and responsibilities and the municipal obligations. And I just wanted to go through this for about 4 or 5 minutes, just to give you an idea of what is involved in this, because we've had a lot of discussion over the past year regarding the municipal policing. So with that also, I wanted to tell you that Superintendent Todd Preston will be attending and presenting at our open council meeting on April 24th of this month, later on this month, to discuss the details of this, but also wanting to discuss what our priorities will be moving forward. And for those of you who are not familiar about the discussions and regarding our policing and how it came to be this way, so in the Canadian census in 2020, the Canadian census of 2021 was released on February 9th, 2022. It revealed that the population of Metchosin had grown to 5,067. That number had risen from the Canadian census of 2016, indicating 4,708 persons in Metchosin. The province has been updating the district staff regarding the potential for an increase in population since at least 2020 in preparation for exceeding this 5,000. So policing in Canada is a shared responsibility between the provincial, the federal, and the territorial municipal governments. Under the Constitution of 1867, the federal government has the exclusive authority to enact legislation regarding criminal law and procedure. In addition, the federal government is responsible for providing a federal police force to endorse federal statutes and to protect national security. So the Constitution Act of 1867 delegates responsibility for the administration of justice, which includes policing, to the provincial government. Each province in particular has a police act that sets out the terms by which police are governed. Provinces may delegate responsibility for policing within the municipalities within municipal boundaries to the municipality. And importantly, under the BC Police Act, municipalities with a population of 5,000 or more are responsible, unfortunately for us, for providing police services within their municipal boundaries. So in BC, policing is provided mainly by the RCMP, the federal, provincial, and municipal services. Policing is also provided by municipal police departments, and there is one First Nation self-administered police service in BC. Notably, there are integrated teams operating throughout the province, These teams provide specialized policing services and are funded and are resourced from 2 or more policing jurisdictions or agencies. So under the BC Police Act, Section 15(1), a municipality is responsible for the cost of providing its police services when its population exceeds 5,000 persons. These municipalities may choose to form their own municipal police department, so that was one of our options, to contract with the municipal government for services for an existing municipal police department, or contract with the provincial government for RCMP municipal services. So as mentioned above, the cost associated with providing these police services is now on our responsibility, and according to the Municipal Police Unit Agreement, or MPUA, and the Municipal Police Services Agreement, that's the agreement between the federal government and the province, the MPSA, we need to carry the responsibility and pay 70% of the cost of the service. So the District of Metchosin is eligible for the federal cost sharing of the 30%, fortunately. So in 2022, the cost per officer for RCMP in Langford was $213,988. This cost per officer includes the wages, the benefits, the vehicles, equipment, and the uniform. So with the MPUA, the Municipal Police Unit Agreement that I signed, it included reference to an Annex A, which was an outline of the total members of RCMP that we would be seeing in our district. And so for the effective date of, and pay close attention to the dates, April 2022 to March 2023, so the year that has just passed, we had total members of 3 in the district. April 2023 to March 2024, we'll have 4 police officers in the district, and April 2024 to March 2025, a total of 5 members. And so that gives you an idea of the Municipal Police Unit Agreement that I signed on behalf of Council and the district. And we just wanted to let you know about that. And as I said, Superintendent Todd Preston will be joining us later on this month on April 24th to give us more details. So, good news. And we didn't really have a choice. So we deliberated and made the best choice going forward. Okay, moving on to my mayor's report. I'm not going to read it out because it's quite long, but just briefly, the Timuc Treaty Association negotiations, they're coming to a close. They're in stage 5 of 6. Part of that stage 5 and stage 6 was public outreach. And so they've had a number of open houses throughout the island, actually. But locally, Councillor Donaldson and I attended the open house in Souk, and a lot of us attended the open house in Metchosin. They were both well attended, lots of respectful questions and answers, so that was very positive. The Capital Region District financial plan, so I sit on the board of the CRD as a representative from Metchosin. They have a huge budget of $690 million. We approved both the operating and the capital budgets. There's some details here. Fortunately, the CEO, Mr. Ted Robbins, and his crew will be coming to present, I think it's in May, just to give us an idea of how they're spending our money and other people's money. So I will welcome them when they come. Okay, moving on to the announcement of the 306-bed long-term care complex in Colwood. This was very exciting, so I was invited by Minister Adrian Dix and Minister Mitzi Dean to attend the announcement of this facility. So this is going to be in Colwood, 306 beds, extended care. The care home will include a hospice unit and a specialized unit of 30 beds for younger adults who need additional care. They will have an adult day day program, hairdressing facilities, therapy sessions or services, a bistro, as well as an adjacent daycare center, which I thought was innovative, of 37 spaces. And this is in addition to over 800 publicly owned and operated long-term care beds on Vancouver Island. So it was a very exciting day in Colwood. Mayor Doug Kobayashi spoke, as well as Mitzi Dean and Adrian Dix, as well as Leanne Hollins from the Island Health. Okay. Camosun College, I've been invited by a number of the post-secondary institutions to view their campuses. I viewed Camosun College, the interurban campus, just parts of it last week. It was really fun. If anybody wants a tour, we can always arrange one. It took all morning. I went through the Camosun Innovates Laboratory, and they're very interested in partnering with some of our farmers, actually, in designing anything that farmers need, that they're having a hard time with their infrastructure, so keep that in mind. I also toured the Automotive Center and the classrooms, the Marine Simulation Laboratory, which was absolutely fabulous and amazing, and the Massage Therapy Laboratory and their program, their teaching classroom. I had no idea that they offered massage therapy schooling at Camosun. So that was that. And then I also had a meeting with Honorable Randall Garrison, our MP, at his request, and he came to Metchosin, which was delightful. I always enjoy meeting with Minister Garrison. He's so positive, he's got some great advice, and he just said, with good guidance and lots of advocacy, just slowly stomp on. So that's what we're going to do. So I thank him for his visit and his interest. And he said, any other grants that you're putting forward for the federal government, please let me know so I can help shepherd them through the system. So let's keep that in mind as we go forward. Okay, that's it for my mayor's report. Moving on to business arising. We're moving to page 27 of the council agenda. This is business arising from the minutes to be considered at this meeting of the special community planning recommendations from March 23rd. Go ahead.
Mayor Little?
Mm-hmm.
I would move that council direct staff to work with the applicant on an open house for the rezoning application at 4696 Beckingham Road, and that staff coordinate a council site visit at that property, that council continue to work with the applicant on the density question related to the 4 further proposed lots, and further that the committee continue to assess options for the appropriate zoning and OCP amendments for the proposal in terms of option 1 and option 2 that were presented that day.
Okay.
So moved.
That's moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Epp. Discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you. So reports for action. This is... Okay, so we have a staff report, the request for the development variance permit at 4990 Ireland Place. Did you want to present, Sue-Lynn, regarding the recommendation?
I have no intention of presenting that.
Okay, that's fine. I'll do it. So the recommendation is that council approve the variance permit to enable the construction of a new accessory building at 4990 Ireland Place that reduces the front yard setback from 7.5 meters to 3.3 meters under section 58(6)A of the Metchosin Land Use Bylaw, 1995 Bylaw 259. Move.
Well, I think there really wasn't any problem with this application, so I will move the recommendation.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Discussion. Councillor Epp, did you want to start?
No, we went and had a site visit and we're showing around the property, and it's a very reasonable request to just, you know, it's just the way the property is situated, where the front of the property is actually side of the property and so on and so forth. Anyway, if it was If it was just a different address on the other road, then it would be no problem. So, you know, it really is just fine.
Okay, Councillor Shukin.
Yeah, and I echo what Councillor Rapp is saying. We met with property owners who I see are here as well today. It seems like a very responsible approach to their building and fully support the variance. So.
Okay. Anybody else wish to? Councillor
Yeah, I agree as well, and I'll be supporting the motion. What is interesting to note is that they will be building in this, starting at the same place where the existing sheds are, so the foundation is there. They'll probably put a new one in, and then going out from there, and they're very cognizant of the wetlands on the property, including close to the building, so there'll be some remediation. And I did see that, you know, there was already some drainage stuff that they were working on. So with, you know, working with our new building inspector and that, I'm confident this will work out well for this family.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
Thank you. And I guess I just want to say a word of thanks to Catherine Lasician, our planner, for her report. And I agree with what Councillor Epp has just spoken about. And also, I am pleased to see that an accessory building of this nature, as Catherine writes, requires the registration of this Section 219 covenant prohibiting residential use of the building. So that's a good thing to have included as well. So very pleased to support the motion. Thank you.
Okay. So that just for everybody who didn't read this, so that the applicants have a vintage car that's under a tarmac right now that they hope to enclose or to put in this building. It won't be used for residents. I was really pleased going out to the site visit, and really we always must go for a site visit. It makes such an impact, and we could actually see for ourselves why they couldn't move the building this way and that way. And I agree with Councillor Epp. This was well worth our effort to go out and see, and I support this motion as well. Okay. Any other comments? No? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. So that's unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Let's see, what do we have? And just noting that of the correspondence from Joni and Jim Challenger, neighbors in support of the application, is on our correspondence. Moving to reports for information on page 41. We have the bylaw animal care services, the invoice, and a summary report. Did anybody have any comments or questions? Yeah, Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, I just had a question under the totals of the livestock. Is this anything related to the concerns we're having with what the conservation officers are working with? There's
Probably.
only 4 here, but I don't know what it really means. You know?
Probably, but don't forget this was just to February.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just to February. If you're referring to the Kruger kills of the lambs, I think that was mostly in March, but that's what I think it is. I don't know. Anybody else? No? Okay, so seeing none, I will take a motion to receive this animal care services report.
Move to receive.
Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by anybody? Epp. Councillor Epp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. And then correspondence for information. We have a letter from the District of Highlands. This is support of Esquimal's motion and resolution to reduce and lower speeds within their municipality. So the District of Highlands is supporting a letter to be sent to Minister Fleming, the Transportation and Infrastructure Minister, regarding this. I think we've talked about this, haven't we, Councillor Rapp, already?
If it's the same one.
Yeah, it was the original letter from Barb Desjardins' group.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll take a motion to receive unless somebody wants to speak to this. No? Okay, motion to receive.
So moved.
From Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Gray. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. Okay, bylaws. This is on page 47. Code of conduct. Okay, so the code of conduct is a written document that sets shared expectations for conduct of behavior. Municipal councils and regional district boards are required to consider adopting and updating a code of conduct following a general local election. We have adopted the previous council's code of conduct, so that is in place. This is a refinement of that code of conduct. What we heard when we're actually going through this procedure at the CRD now, adopting a code of conduct, and what they said to us was don't rush. This is an important document, and the process of discussing it is as important as the actual code of conduct. Okay, so turning to page 47, this is a report from Sue Lynn. Sue Lynn, did you want me to speak to it, or did you want to speak to it?
I don't have anything more to add to it. And just really in brief, that this is one of the requirements that was brought in by the province for council to consider code of conduct. So this is in front of you in the form of a bylaw, so make it a little more enforceable, if you will. So other than that so the current code of conduct that we have in place is just a policy. So this is, as I mentioned earlier, it's in the form of a bylaw for council's consideration. So.
Okay.
Mayor,
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Shuker.
So a question to Sue Lynn for you. So Sue Lynn, have we, through you bringing this to us, have we met the provincial requirement of considering a code of conduct by having it at the table?
Yes, so that's why you're doing it right now.
Great, okay, thank you.
Okay. Do you have another question for Sue Lynn?
Not a question. I was just going to move that council give first reading to bylaw number 682.
I'll second that.
Okay, so discussion. Councillor Shuker.
Thanks very much. I will be voting against the motion, and if it happens to fail, I would actually move, or be willing to move, that we just simply postpone consideration of this, of the code of conduct until an upcoming meeting. I do have a number of concerns with sections 8, 9, 10, and 11, but I haven't really had a chance to actually look at those as closely as I want to, and there are some other things throughout this that I would hope to have a closer look at. And the reason I don't want to support the motion right now and postpone it to another day is we're consumed with budget stuff, as more so as staff as well, and there is time to consider this much more fully. So.
Okay, that's fine. So what I'm hearing is you're not opposed to a code of conduct or adopting a more refined code of conduct, but you want some time to digest. You've got some questions, and that's fine. That's fine. As I say, the process is as important as the document itself. I've got a number of questions myself as well. So why don't we just call the question on that, and we can continue discussing. Oops, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to speak in favor of the motion, if I may.
Oh, sure.
So I'll speak in favor of the motion because it's my belief that we must uphold the respectful workplace at this table, in camera, with staff, amongst council and the public, including on social media. Let's do it. We now have a respectful workplace policy, and tonight I would like us to pass the code of conduct bylaw in front of us. I was disappointed last week to hear from Selby Saluki and his allegations of disrespectful behavior towards the mayor. I really hope we can get to the bottom of those allegations. But this evening I want to talk about...
Point of order. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Your point?
The allegations, sorry. Councillor Gray is referring to somebody who spoke but did not mention any names, and certainly didn't mention Mary Lynn in terms of allegations of wrongdoing or misbehavior, as I recall. So
Sorry.
So
I said allegations of disrespectful behavior towards the mayor. That is what he spoke about.
okay, so,
I apologize. I apologize.
okay, just
Can I continue?
Yes, I apologize. I misheard that. Thank you.
No, it's completely, I'm perfectly fine with that. It was pretty upsetting to me to hear that going on in our meeting and the lack of decorum at the meeting. But this evening I want to talk about respectful behavior towards our staff. I draw the public's attention to what happened during our special finance meeting on March 21st. Please take some time to review the video on YouTube as council discussed our staffing situation starting at 2 minutes and 17 seconds. This was an open meeting, but very few people of public in attendance. Discussion on staffing starts at 2 minutes and 17 seconds and ends at 2 minutes and 49 seconds.
Councillor
I'm not
Gray,
satisfied that during the
call
council's
a point of
staffing
order.
discussion.
Councillor Gray, I don't think this is the place for you to air your grievances. What we're trying to do is we've all decided that we want to refine our code of conduct. There are many instances where we know that we have to refine our code of conduct. I don't think it's a good place to start with the process of adopting a code of conduct with allegations and with you bringing up issues that may or may not have any relevance. I don't think this is the place for this. And I would ask you to speak to the motion that Councillor Epp had put forward, and you've seconded it. We've already had one councillor that won't support the motion. I won't support the motion as well because I don't think we've had adequate time to talk about it. But I don't think it is wise for us, nor positive for you to start off with allegations. And I don't think that leads to respect or congeniality or collegial nature at this table.
Certainly what I'm speaking about is the lack of respect directed towards staff at that meeting, and that's what we're trying to improve with the code of conduct of the council. So I'm speaking directly to the motion, that I want to see this motion passed because I want to see better and more respectful treatment of our staff. Actions speak louder than words, and the difficulty that we've been having, I got a lot to learn about being a councillor, of course, and how to respond in situations like that particular meeting. And I wish I'd intervened at the time. I'm new to the job, and it's not the first mistake I've made. But in the final analysis, I think we have a hope of succeeding as a council. I don't think we have a hope if we don't have better respect of our staff, no matter who they are. And this document that we're looking at tonight is all about respectful behavior, not just to ourselves, but also to our staff. And for me to reference that discussion is simply to point out, we need to do better. You can watch it on the video, you can see what was said and what was done. Now I heard that during the election, someone came into the chambers to vote, and on the way out said to the staff, we'll have you all fired. We need to have, I hope that's not what we're seeing in slow motion before our eyes with our new council. Our staff are extremely valuable individuals who've been busting their butts for us. They deserve our utmost respect for all that they're doing to serve this council and our community, no matter your political bent and who you supported in the election. So for me, this idea of respect for staff is fundamental. And it's no news to people who work for me or with me that I feel we must be respectful of the workforce. And I'm struggling now with what's been going on. And I think that this is actually the time to talk about it, because the dynamics in the council, well, I've been heard now there's a rumor being spread around that I'm running, trying to unseat the mayor. It's like people don't understand. It's so bizarre to me. The rumors that are going around are not respectful, they're not dignified, they're not true. We're a small community, and dividing us by spreading rumors is not a good idea. I want us to pull together through our differences. We were voted in by our supporters, but we are obligated to work for the community. And I don't people understand that the mayor's elected for 4 years. I'm elected as a councillor 4 years. I don't get why people don't understand that. With respect, the mayor knows better than anybody. The job of the mayor is an extremely complex undertaking and a more than full-time engagement. I'm not qualified to hold that position without more experience. If anyone asks, you can say you heard it from me. I want this mayor and our mayor and this council to succeed. That doesn't mean I'm not going to ask tough questions, call my fellow councillors, members to account, and vote according to my values and commitments. I don't know how Johnny Carline's article in the Muse got this all started, but we need to write the dysfunction. I'm looking forward to the anti-bullying workshop and the council dynamics workshop, but a lot of that's based on this bylaw. If all the measures, don't help us improve, I'm open to, conflict resolution professional, anything at all. I guess I just want to start making the steps down this path and make things better. And I'm surprised we've had this. This was given to us before it was provided to the public for us to read and go through. And I don't see why we wouldn't be discussing the details tonight.
Okay, so I'd like to comment on that, and I've got more comments. So we are going to discuss it tonight. Who says we're not going to discuss it tonight? What Councillor Shukin has said is he's not prepared to adopt it this evening. That doesn't mean we're not going to talk about it. Okay? I think I should stop there. Councillor Donaldson.
Yes. When we just before we had our inaugural meeting, we actually all agreed, I believe, and somebody will correct me, I'm sure, that we didn't really feel that our code of conduct that we have currently had enough meat in it, so to speak. It's pretty lean. And we did look at a few others that were in the works, and I've gone online and looked at a few others. And so we signed it along with our oath in front of the public. And we have been working with that document. So we have what we called a code of conduct, and we're, I believe, within those 6 months still okay with that. I myself would like to have more time to go through this and deliberate with my council colleagues to decipher each section of this code of conduct and see if this is the one that's going to suit the chosen council. I don't know where all of the information has come from. I have read a few of the other municipalities' code of conducts. Some of them are very interesting, some of them are just full of legalese that don't make a lot of sense to me, but that's just because of my comprehension. So I would like more time to be able to go through components of this and to understand fully what is in it and make sure we have a really solid document that's reflective from a chosen council.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Councillor, did you want to say anything?
Well, I made the motion because I think it's really well done and really comprehensive, and I would like to get on with it as well. So,
okay. So, how about if we call the question? We can put whatever the results are. We can continue to talk about it. And I've got a number of comments and questions that I would like to have brought back to staff, actually. So, since we have a motion on the table, I'm going to call the question, then we can continue discussion. Okay, with that, call the question. So the motion was to give first, second, third readings.
It's first reading.
Sorry?
First
Just
reading.
for first reading. To give first reading to the bylaw 682. Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so the motion fails. Okay, so let's go through it and discuss it. As I said, the process is important for us to discuss it. We have very little chance as a community of council, the council of the whole, to discuss, except for in an open meeting and for specific reasons in a closed meeting. So this is our opportunity. All of us have said that we think that the code of conduct is important. Just by having 2 pages of prepared speech and everybody doesn't have that, doesn't mean that just one councillor is emboldened by this. Everybody has committed to it.
Point of order.
Yeah, go ahead. What's your
Personal
point?
attack.
It's not a personal attack. It's not a personal attack. I'm saying that just because you say and cite reasons that we need a code of conduct doesn't mean that everybody else feels as passionate about that. You pit one person against the other. It's not. This is a council. And for us to move forward, I think people should stop the grandstanding and we should move forward as one. Everybody has agreed to that. Let's all agree. And then let's start moving forward, looking at this code of conduct. It came with some expense from the community, from the staff. The legal counsel has gone through this. They've suggested, I think some of this anyways. It has been vetted in a couple of communities, but I have some questions. I know that you had some as well. Who wants to start? Yeah.
I'll just say that I think that I'm not grandstanding, and if I prepare with some written notes, that's fine. We all have written notes when we want them for the occasion. We've all had this document in hand for a week and a half or 2 weeks now. So I've prepared for the meeting. It's not improper to prepare for meetings.
No, it's not improper, but it is improper to grandstand. Okay, continue.
Excuse me. What do you mean by that?
It's sort of like pontificating. It feels like you're lecturing to us. And we all agree that the code of conduct is important. So it's your tone, actually. It's like what your wife said at our place. It's your tone sometimes that I think you can take the edge off.
Mary Little, I just want to mention, I think that's a personal statement about Councillor Gray that probably doesn't belong here right now.
Okay.
So, Mary Little, I would move that we postpone discussion of the code of conduct until an upcoming meeting.
Okay.
And I would make that motion just understanding that there's some tension at the table, and I do recognize we've had this for some time, but there have been other things going on. I actually think that staff probably would appreciate a bit of a break with this as well, and I think we do have time.
Okay.
I recognize that. Please feel free to vote against it if you feel the need to talk.
Okay, so that's your motion. So the motion is to postpone this for another meeting.
I would second that motion.
Second that motion. Any other discussion on that?
Move an amendment.
Go ahead.
I'd like to have this discussed at our next meeting.
Our next
I
meeting
move
would
that this motion be discussed at our next council meeting.
that would be April 24th. I'm not sure about the next meeting because I can't remember I know we have Inspector Superintendent Todd Preston. I don't know what else is at that meeting. Do you remember, Tina? No. Okay, so how about if we have it at the next meeting or the meeting after if it can't be accommodated?
Fine.
Okay, so anybody else wish to speak to that? No? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Good, thanks. Let's see what else we have. Okay, there's no other business. We have question period if it begins before 9:30, up to 20 minutes. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, go ahead. You have to come to the microphone.
Yeah, no, Nicole, she can live on your resume. I was at the budget meeting that Councillor Gray's referring to, and I just honestly don't understand what the behavior was that was being called into question. I was at the whole meeting. Don't actually want to hear Councillor Gray because I don't want to give more oxygen to the tension that we've been listening to here in the room. But I will review the video. But I was at the meeting and just didn't see any misbehavior towards staff, like at all.
I was interrupted, so I didn't finish explaining.
No. Anybody else?
Kathy Atherton, Lavon Road. Now, this is not a question. This is not a question. This is a statement I had prepared to read at the beginning, and I didn't read the agenda properly, and I missed the fact that this was coming. The bylaw 682 discussion was coming at the very end of the meeting. So I suddenly thought it wasn't appropriate to read my letter tonight because I thought it didn't pertain to anything. But I'm going to ask you if I would please have permission from all of you, in the light of what just transpired at the table, to please read my letter in public to you all.
Sure.
Are you all in agreement?
Yes.
Sure.
Councillor Gray?
Kathy, could you move closer to the microphone?
Yeah, sure. So, dear Mayor Little and Council, in October 2022, during the course of the electoral campaign for municipal council, each one of you, get this up, campaigned on a platform of reestablishing a transparent, respectful, collaborative working environment on council. Individually, each one of you brings different strengths and backgrounds to the table. Collectively, you share the same values of wishing to protect nature, enforce bylaws, support our agricultural base, keep Metchosin rural, and foster a respectful environment on council. However, I am sad to say that is not always the council that I see before me today. I believe I am not alone in having observed that there appear to be some challenges of communication and interaction within council as a whole. Therefore, I applaud seeing on the agenda today in the Code of Conduct Bylaw 682 a commitment to adhere to the principles of integrity, accountability, respect, leadership, and collaboration. The stated purpose of Bylaw 682 is to establish standards for council members regarding interactions with staff, external expert volunteers, advisory board members, and perhaps, most importantly, each other. Furthermore, it provides a consistent approach to handle breach of said standards. The emphasis to conduct business in a transparent, efficient, accountable, and respectful fashion. I ask you to please support each other as respected community members, even when you may disagree on matters of business. It is inevitable and even desirable that you will disagree with each other at times, and you should feel comfortable to express your opinions. That is the mark of good governance. However, in the event of those inevitable disagreements, Bylaw 682 states that council members shall refrain from disparaging remarks about other council members or council's processes and decisions, whether in camera or in public meetings or out at the community at large. I was pleased to see a comprehensive process of complaints outlined, ranging from an individual to a mutual resolution process for parties to follow. It is my hope that there will be some really meaningful dialogue among the current council to address any differences and misunderstandings that may have arisen in the past, such as they can move forward and coalesce to become the best version of themselves, and that we elected to work together in the best interests of Metchosin. I am deeply grateful to all 5 members of council who ran for election and are now conducting the district's business on our behalf. The pay is modest, the hours long, the phone calls are even longer. There are so many pressing issues affecting Metchosin from the outside world. Please let us not sabotage ourselves from within. Most respectfully to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Kathy? Go ahead. You have to come back to the mic if you wanted to say something else.
Oh, sorry, you want to...
Did you want to say something else?
No.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, anybody else like to say anything?
Katie Nelson, William Head Road, and I must apologize first for, I won't be able to say things as well. And thank you very much for reading that. That was, all of Metchosin is hoping, and I mean desperately hoping, that council can resolve these problems that are occurring. Especially because we all know that you love Metchosin and you care about it in the good ways. So to see the conflicts that are happening, and it's so distressing. And I hope that I know all of you want to work together, and yet there's something that happens between you that makes it so difficult. I feel that you need some sort of help with this, some sort of conflict resolution help of some sort. because this is so important for my children that you can respect each other and treat each other with respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
And if I may follow on what Katie just said, I know this is difficult for all of you. I actually think it was healthy that there was dissension arise publicly, because I don't think it's healthy to go along pretending that things are okay. It's actually okay that things aren't okay because there is a need for any group to learn to work together. So I support you in the journey that you have ahead in learning to work together, and if you collectively feel that you might engage some other help in figuring out how to do that, because it's not simple. It's not something we're born knowing how to do. I really encourage you to take that step and don't feel any shame or inadequacy in doing so. To me, it shows responsibility and maturity to recognize when help will be helpful. Thank you.
So to that end, we have engaged a speaker who will come and speak to both council and staff later this month. And then in the afternoon session, the facilitator will be working just with council. So that has already been secured. That took probably about 8 weeks to define a time. And so that will be happening later this month.
Congratulations.
Anybody else have any other comments or questions? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.